Hi everyone, William Brawley here with Imaging Resource, and today we're back with another review video, this time talking about the Sony A7R Mark IV. Sony's latest high-resolution full-frame mirrorless camera is, simply put, one beast of a camera, and in more ways than one. As with previous A7R models, the hallmark feature here is a high-resolution full-frame sensor, and the A7R Mark IV offers more resolution than any full-frame camera on the market at 61 megapixels. Yet the A7R Mark IV is more than just a high-res camera. It offers some impressive horsepower as well, offering fast burst shooting at up to 10 frames per second, excellent AF speeds with IAF tracking, 4K video recording, as well as in-body image stabilization. The Sony A7R Mark IV is without a doubt a high-end camera, and there's a high-end price tag to go along with it. But it's an extremely versatile, feature-rich camera and much more well-rounded than its predecessors. So let's dive in and see how the A7R Mark IV performed in our testing. Before getting into the nitty-gritty of image quality and performance, let's talk briefly about the design and ergonomics of the A7R Mark IV. Essentially, the camera looks and feels very similar to the previous model, offering the same basic design and control layouts. There have been some improvements and changes though. A number of the buttons and the joystick control are slightly larger, making them easier to operate. The touchscreen's responsiveness is noticeably better, though you still can't navigate menus or the on-screen function menu. The electronic viewfinder has been upgraded as well with a higher resolution screen, making an already excellent EVF that we saw in the predecessors even better. But perhaps the most noticeable ergonomic change to the camera is the hand grip. In the hand, the A7R Mark IV feels much more substantial. The hand grip is fuller, deeper, and offers more comfortable contouring. The grip still isn't as big as a full-size DSLR, but the A7R IV is much easier to hold more comfortably than previous Sony mirrorless cameras. That said, depending on how large your hands are or how wide the lens you're using is, your fingers might feel a bit cramped still while gripping the camera. Given Sony's fantastic track record for excellent image quality from their full-frame mirrorless cameras, it's no surprise that the A7R Mark IV follows suit. The new 61 megapixel sensor captures wonderfully sharp images with lots and lots of fine detail. The lack of an optical low-pass filter really lets you capture images with a gorgeous amount of fine detail. Of course, sheer image resolution and pixel peeping isn't the end-all be-all of image quality, but it is hard to look past the enjoyment of zooming all the way into a huge 61 megapixel image and seeing all the intricate details. In other areas, colors were rich and vibrant without coming across as too saturated, and skin tones also looked natural and lifelike. Dynamic range too has long been one of Sony's strong suits, and the A7R Mark IV excels here as well. Even with just JPEG images, we see lots of detail in both highlight and shadow areas in well-exposed images, and RAW files offer lots of flexibility for tonal and exposure adjustments. When it comes to high ISO performance, the A7R IV does very well here too, despite the high-resolution sensor. Overall noise levels are very well controlled, with in-camera noise reduction doing a pleasing job of retaining detail while removing egregious noise. Besides image quality, the A7R IV is also a surprisingly nimble, responsive camera in most regards. Startup time is quick, autofocus is blazing fast, and continuous AF works wonderfully. And despite the 61 megapixel sensor, the camera can fire off bursts of full-res images at up to 10 frames per second. It's an impressively high-performance camera. Now, if you shoot lots of sports or action, the A7R Mark IV is probably not the best option, though it can certainly work well for these subjects. The A9, for example, offers faster burst rates and better performance overall, while the A7 III offers similar continuous shooting performance but more manageable file sizes. With the A7R IV, the 61 megapixel images are pretty hefty. Surprisingly, they don't affect burst rates that much, though using uncompressed RAW will drop the max burst rate to about 7 frames per second. Buffer depth here is even more limited than with the A7 III, even with JPEGs. Uncompressed RAW and JPEGs will definitely fill up the buffer quickly. And clearing times, despite the dual UHS 2 card slots, is pretty sluggish, especially with JPEG enabled. Now when it comes to autofocus performance, as we mentioned, is fantastic. The A7R Mark IV is somehow even better than the Mark III, offering faster performance, more AF points, and more sophisticated subject tracking features. In testing, we found the A7R Mark IV's autofocus system was fast, accurate, and did very well at tracking moving subjects. The new real-time IAF also worked very well, and is an excellent feature for portraiture, and the new IAF for animals is also quite neat. When it comes to video, the A7R IV is still primarily a photocentric camera. Nevertheless, it still captures excellent quality video and has a healthy selection of advanced video specs, including 4K UHD video at up to 30 frames per second, and Full HD at up to 120 frames per second. The new real-time IAF also works in video too, which is awesome. There's also S-Log with 14 stops of dynamic range and hybrid log gamma support too. However, notably, there's no 4K 60p option, though no Sony camera currently offers that feature either, and the camera is also missing 422 10-bit recording, but it does do 8-bit 422 out via the HDMI. All in all, the Sony A7R Mark IV is a thoroughly impressive camera. capturing images with impressive detail, colors, and dynamic range, and the high ISO performance is excellent even with the high-res sensor. It's a camera that's way more versatile than one might think given the image resolution, offering super fast AF, quick burst speeds for all but the most challenging sports and action scenarios. With 61 megapixels, the image files are hefty, and the resolution is likely way more than what most people need. And at around $3,500 for body only, the A7R Mark IV certainly isn't cheap. But given all that it offers, it's hard not to recommend the camera if you have the cash and you truly need those megapixels. Well, that wraps up our quick summary of our Sony A7R Mark IV review. For full details, our field tests, sample images, and more, scroll on down or check the link in the description. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you guys in the next one.